Okay, Council. It's 2:00. We'll call this meeting to order of the Collingwood Council of Monday, June the 19th, 2023. The first order of business will be the reading of the land acknowledgement, and I'll call on Councillor Houston for that. Thank you.
Thank you. For more than 15,000 years, the First Nations walked upon and cared for the lands we now call home. Anishinaabek, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and many others who are families, friends, and communities the way we are today. The town of Collingwood acknowledges the Lake Simcoe-Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818 and the relationship it establishes with the original inhabitants of Turtle Island. We acknowledge the reality of our shared history and the current contributions of Indigenous people within our community. We seek to continue empowering expressions of pride amongst all the diverse stakeholders in this area. We seek to do better and to continue to recognize, learn, and grow in friendship and community, nation to nation.
The next matter on our agenda is to adopt the agenda, and I'm going to turn the proceedings over to our Deputy Mayor as I wish to make an amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I will ask, I guess, if you want to go ahead and put your amendment forward, and we'll
Thank you. Yes.
I could. The motion has to be put on the floor before an amendment.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. So I'll ask for a mover on the motion, Councillor Baines, and the seconder, Councillor Houston. And I'll turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you. We have one person who's asked to be added as a deputation to today's agenda, and she has not pre-registered. So my motion is to add Brittany Robertson to the agenda, who wishes to speak to council on behalf of the Georgian Triangle Development Institute. Thank you.
So in regards to that motion, we'll require a 2/3 vote in support. Do you have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Baines. So on the addition, I'll ask if anybody would like to speak. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. My question would be this: do we require the deputation if council were of the mind to defer it so that it would provide opportunity? Do we have to do both?
Since we haven't had the discussion or put forward the deferment, I think we'll make the assumption that this needs to be on the agenda. And then if the individual has made the effort to be here, it's probably best to hear them, I would think.
Deputy Mayor, I'm not disagreeing with that, but I thought it was already on our agenda as recommendation to council.
Not on the council agenda. I think it's on the committee of the whole, is it not, for consideration and motion?
Through to the chair. So the staff report with respect to delegated authority for planning matters is on the council agenda for consideration, as it was on the committee of the whole on June 5th. If there was a motion brought forward to defer it, then there's no discussion to be had on the matter. But if the deputation is before the motion is put on the floor to consider the report, then that would not be restricted from the deferral.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I think my preference procedurally would be to defer it where it comes up on the agenda as opposed to the deputation. I really feel that if we open it for one, we need to have fairly opened it for everyone. And by deferring, we do offer that equal opportunity to those who haven't or didn't notice it in time to have that input. So I think in the fairness to everyone, it would be better just to simply defer it under when it comes up on the council agenda.
So at this point in time, we haven't approved the agenda, so you're not putting a motion on the table for deferment. That would happen.
No, I guess what I'm saying is I would vote against the deputation now, because we would want equal opportunity for all to have input if we defer it until the next council meeting.
I'll look to see if anybody else would like to speak, and then I will allow you to speak. Go ahead, Councillor Ring.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Fryer. Just more of a question, I guess, to Deputy Clerk Dahl. If it's a deputation, this is a council meeting, it wouldn't be dealt with on today's agenda anyways, would it? It could be?
With a 2/3 vote, yes.
A deputation at a council, it's not a committee meeting, right?
If I could speak to that.
Sorry.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Ring, a deputation is to bring information forward to council for consideration. There's no decision made on a deputation request itself.
No, but there could be a decision made on the agenda item, though.
On the staff report, correct, if it was brought forward. Yes.
But that's still okay?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
It'd be similar, I guess, to somebody making an official request in the appropriate time frame. So, any other comments? Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate Councillor Jeffrey's point of procedure and understand it. I just don't think I agree with it at this time. But under other circumstances, it probably might. But it's nuanced. But I think under the circumstances, I'd prepare to support this motion. Thank you.
And any other comments from councillors? No, then Mayor Hamlin.
Yes, thank you. As council knows, I received correspondence from Ms. Robertson today asking to be a deputant. It's particularly with respect to a matter that affects the development community. And I thought it appropriate in our endeavors to have better relationships with our development community, that this would be a good opportunity if they're asking to hear from them. It relates to a matter that we will have before us later in the agenda, and it may be appropriate, depending on how we want to take her information into our consideration, to defer that matter. But let's leave that till later, and I'm just encouraging you to vote to add this item to our agenda right now so we can hear from her. Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey, I'll allow you another comment if you would like.
No, I understand, and my intent with deferring for everyone would be to hear from them, and it would be my intent to ask to defer further down in the agenda to defer it to the next council meeting, so that they can do that, in fact, without having to have the deputation this evening. If that's the ask, then I'm quite prepared to simply go to the deferral and make it fair for everyone to have input, as opposed to just one person tonight, albeit someone on behalf of a large group.
And I think, just to be clear, the deferral wouldn't just be to allow others to speak, but we are considering whether or not we should get some more opinion as well. My comment would be, I'm going to support the motion. It does require a 2/3 vote. And then I will consider the deferment if it comes up on the agenda later. So I'll call that all to be considered in vote. All in favor? And opposed? So recorded. And that carries. And I'll turn the agenda back to... I'm sorry, that gave us the amendment, and now the amended agenda motion, which we already have a mover and a seconder for. All in favor? And opposed? And so recorded. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is my asking council if anyone has a declaration of pecuniary interest they'd like to make. Seeing none, if you find yourself in that position during the meeting, please raise it at that time. I now have a motion with respect to adopting minutes of our last meeting. The motion is as follows: that the minutes of the council meeting held June 5, 2023, and the special meeting of June 12, 2023 be approved as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Perry and Councillor Ring, any comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. And the business arising from the previous minutes, There was no rise and report from the in-camera session held June 12, 2023. Is that right, Deputy Clerk?
To council, part of our new procedure as we're going through this pilot project is to bring forward any rise and reports to the next council meeting. So there's the item on the agenda, rise and report from in-camera session of June 12th.
I see.
If there's any information to bring forward.
Okay, thank you for explaining that. Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to add that there's a couple of items in the minutes that had to do with the county report that I did, which I'm going to be reporting on further in the agenda. So I was just letting you know that those items are being carried forward.
Okay, thank you. Next are community announcements, and the first one is our pleasure at introducing the Collingwood Under-17 Trailblazers. This Under-17 girls basketball team traveled to St. Lawrence College in Kingston, May 12 to 14, to compete on the Ontario Cup for the end of the Ontario Basketball Association 22 to 23 season. The team was seeded second last in their division. The girls knew they'd have to play their best if they wanted to be competitive during the tournament, and did they ever. They won all 4 of the round-robin games, and their 4-0 record earned them a spot in the gold medal game, which they won. The team is comprised of players aged 15 to 17 from Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, and Creemore. But that's in Clearview. Okay. So I was wondering, would anyone from the team like to say a few words before I come down and we'll take a photo and I have a certificate and so on? Coach, for you? Oh, yes, please come forward. Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for inviting us here to talk about our success. And we really appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. And we're super grateful for the opportunity to even play these sports in Collingwood and for all the opportunities all of you have given us. We wouldn't have a chance to win this if it wasn't for you guys and all these coaches, parents, all my teammates. I'm so grateful for everyone that has come together to put this together. And I just wanted to say thank you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Council, you want a picture?
I think so.
Picture.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Full court play, people like that. There you go. Yeah. Listening to the people.
Okay. Before we get to the council, community announcements, our Director Calverwood has a few slides to go over. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Actually, if I could ask Robert Wong to come and join me, that would be terrific. So this presentation was thrown together a little bit hurriedly, so my apologies, but I do have some notes to begin with and to understand sort of how things have come together. Robert actually has performed some research work. He owns and operates a company called RMCG, got the acronym wrong. But he performed some work in the past around the Elvis Festival, collecting data that helped supported things like grant funding and whatnot. So we got to know Robert years ago. But Robert approached us very recently with a really exciting proposition for our park near the Awen Gathering Place. And so I'm just going to give you a little bit of background, and then I'm going to ask Robert to sort of speak to his why. What you're seeing on screen right now is a version of the Waterfront Master Plan that was altered after the Awen Gathering Place was put in play. The Waterfront Master Plan had not gone to the level of detail to understand the effects of things like the adjacent to the shoreline, as well as its status as a former landfill. And those created conditions that caused us to come back to council and indicate that we were changing some of the moving pieces in the Waterfront Master Plan. And so this vision, I call it kind of a sub-master plan, but it's really just kind of a vision document that says this is what we're planning to do in this area of Harborview Park. I will say, though, that the introduction of the Awen Gathering Place through the Waterfront Master Plan and then its eventual construction in 2018, it kind of influenced the direction of the park, and it actually caused us to rethink how the water play facility was going to be imagined, and we did Indigenous consultation around that with Dr. Duke Redbird, and what you have now is something that we're very excited to present, hopefully in July of this year. And when that pivot occurred, it actually kind of changed that whole section of the park. We started thinking of it in terms of how does this relate to this messaging that was originated through Dr. Redbird's vision of the gathering place. So now, as you can see sort of in this diagram, this sub-plan diagram, there's the Awen water play up in the upper left. The gathering circle is where you currently know it. And the bottom right is a future vision for a bit of a soaring canopy that could be used for picnic sheltering, and then our event lawn around number 9 there. It was about a year ago, I think, that Robert approached us with the opportunity for a water fill station near the Georgian Trail to align with objectives that he has, which I know he'll speak to. And then somewhere along the way, as things often do with Robert, they blossomed into an art piece as well. It blossomed from a nice project into a very exciting art piece collaboration with the water fill station. So we had some opportunity to leverage the work being done with the water play and bring a water line over to the Georgian Trail. So we took advantage of that to arrange this siting. There's something really interesting as well, and for those who don't know, the word Awen is actually the Wendat word, or a Wendat word for water. So initially, when Dr. Redbird provided us with that word, shared that word with us, it was related to the shoreline and Georgian Bay and the harbor and its proximity to water. But now we have water play, and with this exciting new water bottle fill station and some of the associated themes, you'll see that really things are coming together well. If I go to the next slide, please. So Robert, an artist that Robert had commissioned, Derek Martin and Elder James Carpenter collaborated to develop this piece. And in developing the piece, they set some cultural guidance around what it would be and where it would be. So Envision Tatum took that intent and they turned it into this sort of orientation that you're seeing. Keep in mind that now that versus the picture I just showed you, everything's been rotated 90 degrees. So the harbor is actually north, and you can see the N, and the water play is in the bottom left. Sorry. The circle that you can see as the continuation of the trail That actually was in the initial conceptualization of the newer vision of sort of the Awen area of Harborview. And you can see, it's hard to see actually, but in the right-hand side about the middle is where the new art piece and water bottle fill station will be located. We're looking actually to start the extension of the trail that will eventually encircle the lower part of the berm that the Awen Gathering Circle is on. But that'll be completed in 24. But for right now, we're just sort of starting that completion. Some important things to note before we get to the actual piece is that with guidance from James Carpenter, the water bottle fill station and the art piece are on the east-west axis that starts and continues a line through the gathering circle and the outer ceremonial circle, where we'd also like to plant a ceremonial fire pit one day. And that east-west trajectory is really, really important because of the cardinal directions have a lot of significance in Indigenous tradition. And I'll explain a little bit more of that in a second as well. And then also you'll just kind of notice in an overarching way that circles are a big prevalent feature in the entire park now, especially from an aerial view. If I can go to the next slide, please. So this slide was a little bit thrown together, and so I appreciate it's not easy to understand, but in the left side, you'll see Derek Martin's sketch conceptualization that shows the bowl sculpture tipped towards the east. That's according to Elder James Carpenter, that's to sort of recognize the east as the cardinal direction related to rebirth, to growth and change. It's also the circular shape of the bowl has a significance that I've mentioned before and that you see throughout the Awen Park area. And that is, it represents the interconnectedness of all things. Water also is an interconnected feature. It belongs to all things. It's part of all things. All things need it. Mentioned that it's tipped to the east. The turtle that you'll see, and I know that Robert has it on display here. There's a feature already completed. It's a really interesting thing. So many of us have become familiar with the idea of Turtle Island as sort of the indigenous symbol for planet Earth or Mother Earth. But something I learned from Elder James was that there's 13 scales on the back. And this is actually common amongst almost all turtles. And the 13 scales in the Indigenous tradition are recognized as symbolic of the 13 months of the year, 13 lunar months, I should say. There's also 28 scales around the outer edge of the shell, and those relate to the lunar calendar days. And yeah, so the connection of the water bottle fill station, it creates a complement between the sculpture's intent and the practical need for water by trail users. We're super thrilled and want to express some gratitude to Robert. Robert, I'll hopefully ask if you don't mind just sharing your rationale behind it.
Oh, I'm a teacher. I can speak. No, no. I think we're very, very fortunate that this has all come together, and I say it's an alignment of ideas. My wife was an environmental planner, and we've done a lot of strategic planning work in the region. We did the feasibility study for a cycling route around Georgian Bay. We have done, economic impact studies with regards to big events around the region. And we've done work on the downtown, in terms of the downtown BIA, in terms of, their first strategic plan or branding back when it was outstanding downtown. Anyways, we wanted to choose a project that we can give back to the community. We chose this area because we felt it was so important to have something along the waterfront, Georgian Bay, the waterfront, with the Waterfront Regeneration Trust. We thought of a number of different ideas, and then the water refill station, not just water, a water refill station was important from an environmental perspective. With that, we sometimes think, well, this is for, the athletic side of the community, and I always believe we've got to marriage the art and the other sides and bring them together. So I suggested a public art piece with it, and so we wanted to have people who stop for the water at the water refill station to actually think about where that water is coming from. And therefore, we wanted to stimulate a conversation of the gathering and collection of water, the storage of water, and the sharing of water for the health of Turtle Island, Mother Earth. And so that is where it all has come to. And we're looking forward to the installation of this wonderful community project to Collingwood in, I guess, July. I was talking with the artist, and I've pushed him along, and we're looking at a target date. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wong, for your contribution to our community and for coming today and explaining the genesis of this and the whole history and what it means. I think it's, we'll have to get that knowledge out too. We'll have to have a plaque. Okay, well, thank you so much. And thanks, Director Culver, as well. Now for community announcements, we'll start with our Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. And I have 3 updates I'd like to provide. The first is an update about a local young man, Braden Usher, who is taking part in the Ride Across Canada expedition for mental health. It's an 8,000-kilometer journey from Tofino, BC to St. John's, Newfoundland. His efforts is working towards raising funds for mental health. Braden is also one of our local entrepreneurs with his business Train for Life. Braden's goal is to raise $25,000, so I wanted to mention for those who are wanting to support him, you can go to the website, www.raceformentalhealth, all one word, .ca. You can access Braden's heartfelt story and link to the donation site, Jack.org, to make your donation. Braden's on a short layover right now in Collingwood, and we wish him the very best when he continues with his journey this Wednesday. Another item is that last week myself and Councillor Potts were out to Sunset Manors Community Fair. I wanted to note about this because it was part of their Give a Lift long-term care bus fundraising campaign. We learned they are still a long way from the goal, so we wanted to mention anyone wishing to help them out. They can go to www.simco.ca, the county website, /give a lift, and you'll be able to find the Sunset Manor donation area. One other is to invite everyone to come out and celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day at the Shipyards Amphitheater on June 21st from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock p.m. Juno nominee Amanda Reum will be performing, so please come out and enjoy her fine work. And that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. So I had the opportunity with the mayor and the deputy mayor to do a bit of our training with respect to the emergency planning. And I was online and did my introduction to incident management systems. And while I was there, I thought, well, maybe I should just do my emergency plan too while I'm here. So my community announcement today is to let you know that the fire chief, who has said publicly he's competitive. Right now, Collingwood is sitting in second position in Ontario for the number of household emergency plans that have been filed. And it would only take 30 to get to number 1. Well, now only 28 because I did mine. I had my daughter do hers. So I'd like to encourage all the households in Collingwood to get on those emergency plans, not just so we can be number 1, but that we can have the highest percentage of our residents that have made their plans in the case of emergency and know how their family and they will deal with it and be as safe as possible during anything untoward. So that's my announcement.
Thank you. There's a question. Okay.
Councillor Jeffrey, is there a deadline for this household emergency plan?
And how do we do it?
I have the link. I can get the link to you. And it's just ongoing, but I'm sure we'd like to be number 1 sooner than later. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Okay, well, circulate that to council, please. And if anyone listening is interested, they're going to reach out to you too. So that's good news.
Yeah, that's great. And Mayor Hamlin, if also maybe
Yeah.
somewhere in our newspaper and social media things that we do, if we could also share that link and encourage people to participate, that would be great.
Right. Good thing. Okay. Councillor Houston, please go ahead.
Just one community announcement. Starting next Wednesday, June 28th, and continuing for 10 weeks is downtown Collingwood's local live lunch that takes place at Sheffer Court. Lunch can be purchased on site from a featured restaurant each week, and the public's invited to stay and listen to a different local music performance.
Thank you for reminding us of that. Councillor Potts.
Thanks, Mayor Hamlin. Received a note. The Girl Guides are going to be hosting a number of events throughout the summer. I will be updating council and the community as those come in on confirmed dates. But they wanted the community to know that they will have a booth July 29th and September 2nd at the Farmers Market. And anybody that is interested in knowing more or joining can certainly visit them there. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ring.
Unfortunately, Mayor Hamlin, I have nothing to add to today's announcements.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Your Worship. Citizens will know that this past weekend, the Georgian Triangle Humane Society held their ever-popular Pet Walkathon and raised, at this point, I'm led to believe, about $120,000, which is their goal. However, the donation windows are still open, so if those of you missed taking your pet or any pet on that day, you can still participate and put them over the top. And so kudos to them. And if I might say in regard to our Girl Guides, Girl Guide cookies, delicious Girl Guide cookies are now on sale. Speak to your local Girl Guide and you can get a box for just $6 a box. They've gone up. And I might point out, if I can be blatant, that the Optimist Club of Collingwood just granted the Girl Guides of Collingwood $1,400 to send 14 Girl Guides to Iceland for a jamboree. So congrats to the Girl Guides. That's it. Thank you.
Amazing. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. On behalf of the library, I'd like to share that the ecological gardening is tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at Simcoe Street Theatre. A panel of expert gardeners will be discussing ecological gardening practices, pollinators, backyard food growing, pest management, and more. You can register on the library website or by contacting the library at 705-445-1571. Also, the library is offering fraud prevention in partnership with the Collingwood Police. This presentation will cover the latest in frauds and scams occurring in our own neighborhood, with advice on how to protect yourself. A question and answer period will be included. Join us on June 22nd at 2 p.m. by registering online or emailing the library at info@collingwoodpubliclibrary.ca. Also, Grow and Flow Children's Yoga is every Monday from 6 to 6:30 p.m. A great way to improve balance, strength, flexibility, and mental health. This program is recommended for ages 6 to 10 years old. You can register online or by phoning the library, and please bring your own mat and child. The library is kicking off summer with a murder mystery night on June 28th at 6 p.m. This program is designed for youth to follow prompts and clues to solve a murder that has taken place at the library. Don't forget to register. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I have 3 announcements. We have a confirmed visit by the Mayor of Kitano in mid-September now for 3 days. And he'll be coming with as many as 20 other people from Japan with him. So we have a volunteer committee that's busy working with our staff to come up with a nice visit for them and a chance to meet council and the community as well. And you'll notice when you're going by the Friendship Gardens, our staff are busy out there putting a little shine, a spit and polish, if I can call it that, on the Friendship Garden. So we'll have our best foot forward for that garden, which of course was planted in honor of this sister city relationship with Kitano. I also wanted to mention the Collingwood Music Festival. You've probably seen some of the ads around for that. It's going to be an amazing event this year. It's been getting better and better every year. The first event is going to be a concert with a 65-piece orchestra at Millennium Park. No cars allowed. And there'll be parking off-site that you'll be able to get there from. And there's something literally for everyone. Jazz, classical, new age, I'll call it. They'll be doing work, all different performers, just to see. I just encourage you to go to the Collingwood Music Festival website. The tickets are all around $40 each. And there's also kids are free if they're with an adult. And there's also on July 5th, a free youth day at the Duntroon Highlands Golf Course with different music stations set up. So I think that's been done before, and it's great. Great adventure for the kids that day. Lastly, I'll just mention that I got an invite to, and therefore am now aware that we're having a new TV station come to Collingwood. It's called The Baywatch, and it's being put together by the owner and the team at On the Bay magazine and the new classical 102.9 FM station. So this, of course, the brains behind this is Moses Zamer, and this will be on July I think it's the 6th. Yeah, July the 6th will be the launch of that. So that's pretty exciting for our community. New TV station. Okay, so those are my community announcements. Now on to deputations. The first one today is from the Escarpment Corridor Alliance. Would they like to come up to the podium, please? You'll see I've left pins there in a little bag. Just put them underneath. Sorry, I meant to hand them out and I forgot. Yeah.
Get to come back for a gold medal celebration and picture a couple years too.
That's it.
Fantastic. So, Mayor and Council, thank you very much on behalf of the Escarpment Corridor Alliance. My name is Bruce Harbinson. I'm the president and founder of the Alliance. If I could go to the next slide, please. I'm going to move quickly because I want to make time for my colleague, Robert Wong. So the vision for the Escarpment Corridor Alliance, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a broad regional system of natural corridors and trails across the escarpment of southern Georgian Bay that's underpinned by a conservation economy approach to land stewardship and sustainable economic prosperity. If I go to the next slide, please. The corridor that we are referring to is, of course, part of the celebrated UNESCO World Biosphere Reserve. It's filled with globally unique natural features inhabited by many species at risk. It unites over 500 square kilometers of forest, wetlands, and 5 different watersheds, and connects celebrated places like the Blue Mountains right above Collingwood here, and of course the Beaver Valley. Next, please. In the map here, you can see that much of the corridor that we're talking about enjoys some form of protection. However, with the weakening of the Niagara Escarpment Commission, the starving of our conservation authorities, and unrelenting pressure from developers, we know that there's an enormous risk to our incredible natural heritage in the region. Next slide, please. Many of you may know or think of us as a group that's been fighting against what we consider inappropriate developments like Castle Glen in the Blue Mountains, Talisman and the Silver Creek wetlands. And while this certainly plays a role in who we are, what we believe in, we really want to be known as the group that is fighting for bringing a much larger multi-municipality regional corridor concept to life. And the conserve pillar of our strategy is just that, focused on collaboration between public agencies, governments, and private landowners. Which leads us to create. We are facing the twin crises of biodiversity and climate change these days. Our natural assets need protection if we're going to win these battles. Equally important, these natural assets are the cornerstone of our economy and our health and well-being. The right investments in tourism, recreation, sport, and culture are foundation to a conservation economy, whereby we can create an area that will not only be an enviable place to work, live, and play today, but even better, a generation from now. Finally, unite. The word alliance is not a token word in our name. For example, this Friday, we will be hosting our second partners meeting and welcoming over 30 representatives from 19 organizations across southern Georgian Bay. We see unifying and amplifying our collective voice as the key to getting things done. So I want to turn things over to Robert Wong to discuss the community survey that we've just done. And let me say this, that we believe that there are some very important messages in here. We have put a big investment in time, expertise, and dollars into this. And I think you'll see it's one of the largest, if not the largest, community survey that's ever been done in the region. So I turn it over to my colleague, Robert.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. And again, Your Worship and councillors, can we have the next slide, please? And the next slide after that, please. Okay, and the next one. And I'll just keep saying next, okay? And next. My job, it's really tough because I have a lot to share with you and not enough time. So really my job here is to build your curiosity, give you a peek of the information that's very valuable from this survey. And I'm going to start off with sharing how the project was done. We wanted to reach the community. You want to hear the voices of the community around us, and you want to hear what they're saying and what they believe. We wanted to make it accessible, so we used an online survey. We made it tight, only 26 questions, about 10 minutes. Actually, I think the average was 7 to 8 minutes to complete. We were targeting the communities around southern Georgian Bay. And we also made it available for those who were visitors coming to the area. And therefore, we have a view from the inside as well as a view from the outside. We reached out to subscribers of the Escarpment Corridor Alliance newsletter, but then we did a lot more than that. We reached out to get as many citizens involved. We did a direct mail unaddressed postcards, 5,000 in the town of Blue Mountain. We did radio spots in 2 radio stations. We did a social media campaign, and we had the survey out for 2 months. Could we have the next slide, please? And we had a very representative and robust sample of over 3,000 people. And if you break it down, for the town of the Blue Mountains, it was 869 respondents. Southern Georgian Bay, over 2,000. And for visitors, almost 1,000. Can I have the next slide, please? And so I've got a lot of slides here. What was it? Do we have 150 slides here, Bruce, to get through? No. I just want to emphasize here, we've oversampled in the Blue Mountains, and what we have done, and let's say we have the same proportion in Collingwood in our sample that we do in the census of population if we looked at all the population in Southern Georgian Bay. We have weighted our data when we talk about Southern Georgian Bay. We've weighted our data so that it's in proportion to the number of people that live within that area. We looked at other factors such as age. If you look at the top graph over there, if we compare the 2 blue bars, that shows the census as well as a distribution of the respondents by age. And you can see it matches up pretty well, except for the younger ages, so that less than 35. We weighted the data there as well to be representative. Could we have the next slide, please? We asked respondents about how they use the escarpment during the warm season and the summer season. I have broken this down by town of the Blue Mountains, Southern Georgian Bay. You can see sort of the red, and the green are visitors. Most important thing I can mention to you here is there is consistency throughout those different populations we have. Not surprising here that you'll get the activities that you'd expect, the hiking, the swimming, so the land-based and the water-based activities. But most important, you should see that there are experiential activities that are so important to the business of tourism in our area that show up here. And that's culinary and agro visits. That is arts and culture, and also the beverage industry. And so you can see that. You'll see that the consumptive types of activities such as fishing and hiking and motorcycling are low. Can we go to the next one, please? In the winter, same consistency. The ones you typically think would be strong are strong. The ones that are related to the businesses, related to the natural environment are strong. Those are the active or the mechanized activities, recreational activities are lower. So your niche is not there. Next slide. We asked about environmental priorities. Most important thing you need to know is they're very concerned about protecting our natural areas and about the water courses and water quality. And so those are the ones that are rising to the top. The broader global issues such as climate change are important, but not as important. Can you next slide, please? We then asked them about a number and gave them a number of attitudinal statements, and we asked them to identify their agreement or disagreement with those statements. You're not going to have time to read that, and you certainly couldn't read it on this small little screen up here. Most important for you to realize is that if you look at the green bars, those represent they are in agreement strongly or somewhat to those statements. Very strong environmental attitudes. And that's for the town of Blue Mountains, isolating 869 respondents. Consistency there. We'll go to the next slide. Southern Georgian Bay, consistency there again. If we look at visitors, that's the next slide, please. It's even more so. They're even more in agreement with strong environmental attitudes. Next slide, please.
Mr. Wong, you have 1 minute left.
Okay. So we've looked at the various developments, and at the various developments, we gave them a map showing where they were. We gave them a description that was short, that was from the public domain description, and then we asked them, were they familiar and were they opposed or were they supportive? Consistency here again. Go to the next slide. And the next slide. Visitors, next slide. This is Talisman, same situation. We asked same information. Opposed, next slide, please. Consistency, look at those bars at the bottom. And next slide, please. Now this is Silver Creek wetlands. Same thing, we asked, were they aware after we gave them a description? Prior to giving them the description, we then have whether they support or oppose and ask council what they would do. Next slide, please. That's the town of, this is Southern Georgian Bay. And the next one. I think the last thing I want to leave you is, next slide, please. Next slide. The voices from the community were clear and strong. In the full report, and I ask you to go and read the full report, there are very good verbatim comments that are captured about this quality of the environment we have here. And I suggest you read it. So just continue, please. Continue. Continue. And I just wanted to show that they're there and there's lots of them. Continue. There are over 800 people who have responded to the open-ended questions. Continue. And continue. Just to sum up, we've got a great, robust sample here. Nature-based uses of the escarpment are very strong. Your niches in that area. Next slide, please. Top priorities are about our natural resources and water quality. Their environmental attitudes are very strong, and certainly about minimizing sprawl and concentrating development. Next slide, please. And when it comes to councils, they're asking councils to take action. And that action is for these developments to consider them, but oppose them, whether examining locally or regional communities or even visitors. There's a consistent and a strong message that they want an opposition to these proposed developments for the strength of our natural resources in the region. I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for
If
your
you have any questions,
presentation.
but I'm available at the future. Okay? If you had any
Okay,
questions.
thank you.
Thank you.
Make it 30 seconds.
Go through the slides here. There are two asks of council. Thank you. First of all would be that council put forward and adopt a motion that mirrors one adopted by the town of Blue Mountains that got this vision kickstarted. It was passed unanimously by town of Blue Mountains in January, acknowledging the importance of our green spaces and looking for collaboration across municipalities. So that would be the first ask. And the second being, as a follow-on to that, we've already had one meeting of the chief administrative officers of the 4 municipalities surveyed here, and that we have the support of council for a multi-stakeholder working group, including the regional CAOs, to pursue our strategies for bringing this motion to life. Thank you. Really
Thanks so
appreciate your
much.
time today.
Thank you. Any questions of council, from council today? No, I think we're good. Yeah, I saw your survey online. I was looking while you were talking, so that's really helpful. Thanks for bringing this all to our attention. And I assume, Deputy Clerk, we have their motion they wanted us to consider. Have you forwarded that to us?
We forwarded.
Okay, yeah, if you send it to my office, I'll have a look. Okay, thank you. So would Ms. Robertson be here? Oh, she's online. Fantastic. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Hanlon. Am I okay to get started?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Hanlon and members of council, and thank you very much for taking the time to hear from me today. I know it was short notice, so I really appreciate that. My name is Brittany Robertson, and I'm a professional engineer and the manager of land development at Crozier & Associates, as well as the president of the GTDI, or Georgian Triangle Development Institute, on behalf of which I am here today. For those of you who may not be familiar with GTDI, we are a private sector nonprofit organization which represents the development industry within the Southern Georgian Bay region. Our over 50 members include developers, builders, contractors, suppliers, planners, engineers, real estate firms, and related industry businesses within the Georgian Bay area, many of whom are right here in Collingwood. This year, we are celebrating our 30-year anniversary. We would like to thank the town for the recent collaboration and engagement on a number of initiatives. We appreciated the invitation to attend and participate in the development review meetings, as well as the upcoming attainable housing initiatives. These items are important to both the town of Collingwood as well as the development community, and together we can increase our pool of resources and make a much bigger impact. Item 9.1.2 that is on the council agenda for approval today is extremely problematic for the development community. Our board has received a flurry of comments and concerns from our membership in the last week, asking us to do something about this. We are feeling quite blindsided without a real opportunity to work with the town to come up with something more reasonable to the development community. Developers and applicants invest a significant amount of time and money into the preparation of materials that go into a complete planning application. Through the development review process, it's very common for substantial changes to result on an application, often taking more than 4 months to address, specifically given the magnitude of some of the files in this area and seasonal nature of some of the studies required to support these developments. Even the suggestion of closing an application in 4 months adds even more risk for the developers to doing business and investing in Collingwood. Renewing applications to assess them as dormant files every 4 months reviewing applications to assess them as dormant on every file after 4 months of inactivity will require significant time from the town staff required to track this. Applications that are deemed dormant and need to be restarted in the process will generate additional time to process and cost to complete that ultimately will not be borne by the developer, but these will be passed on to the end user, making housing in this area even more expensive. This does not help either the town's staffing concerns or the attainable housing issues that we are collectively facing at this time in the town of Collingwood. This item has garnered attention beyond our local organization from the Build Simcoe chapter, who has submitted a formal response to the town and council on how approving this proposal is in contradiction to Bill 109 for a number of reasons. I urge you to read their submission carefully. They have further gone on to say that it is potentially not within the statutory authority of the town in the first place. Our organization is in agreement with Build on this submission, and we urge you to consider the implications of passing this motion today without thoroughly considering this. Over the past number of months, the GTTI has been very pleased to host members of council and staff at our members' meetings, and I look forward to bringing change by working more collaboratively with the municipalities that we represent. We are making big steps in the right direction towards bringing the development community and the town closer together and uniting the town staff and the development industry. This proposal is completely unreasonable and will be seen as a direct shot from the town directly at the development industry. 4 months is far too short to consider a file dormant in any situation. Our request to council is to replace the 4-month timeline with a 1-year timeline, or defer consideration for this motion today and allow for further discussion to establish something more reasonable. Let's continue our momentum on building a relationship that will bring the town and the development community back towards a more productive working rapport. Our actions, like these, speak volumes more so than words. We need to show our efforts to collaborate and come up with a reasonable solution. Thank you very much for your time, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for making the time to share the views of the development industry with us today. Your comments will certainly be taken into account when we discuss this item later in the agenda. Would anyone like to ask questions at this point? Oh, not. I think you made yourself very clear. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Next item on the agenda is 2 reoccurring updates. 7.1 is the update on water capacity. I missed, oh yeah, sorry. I've got my writing overall of everything, I can't even read it. Okay, there's still another deputation. This is, sorry, Sue. Support for community-based strategic plan with downtown master plan RFP and 84 here Ontario Street. Next steps. And I'll just turn this over to you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sarah Pennell. I'm the chair of your BIA Board of Management. With me today, I have Director Lindsay Watson and our General Manager, Sue Nicholson. We do. Going anywhere. Oh.
Go.
Thank you. We've covered that. We can move on to the next slide, please. We would like to just show our support and appreciate the strategic planning for councils as they embark on this new term. And we support the need to have that downtown visioning exercise and a master plan developed to ensure that all of these great ideas in your plans for the downtown, they're approached strategically and they consider all of those various impacts. In a lot of our meetings, things like traffic, parking, space, the fit, the cohesion, and the aesthetics of the downtown have come into play. We really think these are important things to consider moving forward. On this note, we would like to bring to the attention that our current Board of Management with the BIA has recognized the need for a strategic planning update within the BIA. Our General Manager and several board members, myself and Director Watson included, have partaken in a Train the Trainer series, which was hosted by OBIA and OMAFRA with other several board members. And it's designed for the BIA specifically to gain the skills and to facilitate their own strategic planning process. Our next steps are going to be to bring this forward to the board and to move forward, hopefully with the support of council, on updating the strategic plan for the downtown area. You can go to the next. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Council and the staff for the foresight to tie the downtown visioning and the master plan exercises with the strategic plans. They create the synergies, they save time and resources, and they are going to ensure that it's completed in a timely manner before individual decisions are made without having access to the bigger picture at hand. I just want to again thank Council for the invitation to the BIA to participate on the steering committee that does support the downtown master plan exercise quite well. In regards to 84 here Ontario Street, this property was purchased by the town in 2022. BIA has committed $50,000 to assist in the interim activation of that vacant property. There are additional reserve funds available if necessary. However, as the board, we do feel that we do not want to invest too much into the property until the downtown master plan is complete. That will really come into effect to help shape what that property looks like. We're very supportive of it becoming a future town square. If that is Council's ultimate decision, we do recognize that this plan that we're presenting today is a short-term and a much longer plan will be required. So in accordance with the town and the BIA Memorandum of Understanding, initiatives to construct or enhance infrastructure in the downtown shall require the town's approval and be at the expense of the BIA unless otherwise approved by Council. Town staff and the BIA have been working together to develop an interim solution to activate that property in the short term to ensure it is maintained and usable until the future of the lands have been determined by the Council here today. Next slide, please. So what the proposed plan is as supported by town staff and the BIA, first of all, we're going to clear that debris from the property, and that thankfully is completed in kind by Public Works. Thank you very much for that. We're going to locate some capping of the underground infrastructure from the town. Remove and fill that broken rubble at the front of the property, which will alleviate a lot of the liability for how it currently stands. The asphalt and the usable concrete pad removing will help with any trip hazards, and we're going to install an entrance path from here Ontario that leads into this public space. We would like to have a temporary fence installation along the southern border just to separate that from that alleyway that walks beside the bank of the CIBC. In that public space will be benches, large planters, bike racks, and all of that infrastructure does come from the current existing inventory within the BIA. So there is no additional cost to put those things in place. Next slide, please. There was going to be outdoor lighting across that paved pad area, and there will be a little visualization of this on the next slide, so bear with me here. We want a temporary stage or pergola constructed. That is still to be decided. And we have prepared an agreement with the neighboring property for the installation of an electric meter. Carol Petton-Watson has been very kind in offering her help and support with that to get things underway. The ongoing electrical costs will be worked with by the BIA. And some of those interim uses that we have coming up for us are those candidate day events, multiple pop-up events, the BIA Christmas market that is a huge success downtown. That additional space would come in so handy for that. There are various PRC events, additional bike storage to encourage that active lifestyle and commuting downtown, and many passive public outdoor uses. If you want to grab a coffee and go sit in a parkette, that's right on here, Ontario. That's another one of those uses there. Slide, please. So this is that visualization. Please excuse the very rough hand drawing. It was quite a last minute decision here to bring this forward today. As you can see, that entrance from here, Ontario, has those two grass areas to give it that warm parkette feeling. Those planters that you see are, again, coming from the existing BIA inventory. That crisscross overhead lighting really just makes it a warm and welcoming atmosphere, similar to the alleyway that leads to Gibson's. That stage and pergola there is still to be decided, but would be removable. With those benches, the planters, again, coming from the Pine Street parking lot, bike storage, as well as a shed there for storage as well. That temporary fencing that you can see in that thick black line towards the south is still up for debate on what that's going to look like, something along the lines of cedar rail or that black cast iron, some other decorative kind of style would be our idea. So our direction that we are asking from council today would be, whereas in accordance with the BIA and Town Memorandum of Understanding, initiatives to construct or enhance infrastructure in the downtown shall require the town's approval and be at the expense of the BIA unless otherwise approved by council. Therefore, be it resolved that council support the interim activation plan proposed by the BIA in cooperation with town staff for 84 here Ontario Street until the downtown master plan is complete and council confirms the future of that subject property. If there are any questions about this, I would invite Sue to come up and answer those.
Nice handoff.
A little bit more, thank you. She's been quite involved in these standing committees that I unfortunately wasn't able to attend.
Okay, well, thank you very much for bringing that information to us and the wording for a motion. Would anyone on council have questions? Councillor Jeffrey and then Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. So I just was curious as to how much coverage the asphalt was. Not really a big fan environmentally of heating up our... So if you could just explain to me, I didn't really understand how much asphalt you were proposing here.
We're planning on other than that spot on the front, they would be asphalting the entire property. It'll get rid of all the trip hazards and it's really the most cost-effective way and the easiest way to limit liability on it. Right now, there's a lot of trip hazards on that property.
Our CEO is going to weigh in. Go ahead.
I was hoping that Sue might mention how much of the property is already hard surface, is that this wouldn't be a new hard surface.
No.
It just would be covering something existing, I believe.
That's right. Yes. Yep. And the other option would be to repair some of the concrete areas. In discussions with the acting supervisor of works, Chris Wisniak, the indication is that would be almost impossible to get done until late fall because that's when they have their next concrete crew come in and it's difficult to secure contractors. Right now we have an asphalt contractor that can do it. Hopefully, if council is willing, we could have this activated for Canada Day.
Follow up?
Sure.
Yes. We're fast.
That is fast. I guess the other thing then is runoff, and although have we given it all the usual considerations that we would give in terms of that kind of change to a surface, particularly within the downtown core? Just wondering.
The question was about runoff, like stormwater runoff.
The project would be managed by the works department, so I assume that they would have all that.
You know what they say about assume.
Yes, I do.
It's my job not to assume.
Is there anyone? Well, we can ask that of staff when we get into the motion. Yes, Councillor Houston was next. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Knowing the short timeline and trying to get this ready for Canada Day, just a point of clarification on the motion. There's a couple of items in the presentation that identify costs to the town. Would we also have to have a motion to pass any funding or budget to go towards this?
Okay. Not this though. So the debris has already been cleared from the lot, so that's been done. The locates and capping of the infrastructure, I understand that was to be assumed during the demolition of the building, but because it was going to be rebuilt, it was a building that it was never completed as part of the demolition permit. So it's something that needs to be done, but I understand that Chris may be online, so he may be able to answer that. Everything else would be paid for by ourselves. The electrical is not something that we anticipate doing by Canada Day. It's probably would need to be in place and ready to roll by the Christmas market when we would be using lights and that. So that's a bit of a longer term process.
And CEO Skinner's going to add a little information to that. Thank you.
I just heard through Manager Cole that the water and the sanitary were capped today by our water department and public works.
Excellent.
Okay, so it sounds like no money right now, at least. Okay. Did you have any follow-up?
Nope. I just wanted to make sure that if we pass this motion, that the BIA was able to move forward as quick as possible.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ring?
Thank you very much, Mayor Hamlin. Just a question through you to Sue, I guess. I understand you want to, for obvious reasons, cover that with the asphalt, and you're going to leave the current concrete base that's there, and just as you said, just recover it, right?
That's right.
I know it's the most probably cost effective, and it is probably the quickest solution to do. But in an area that you want to use that property for, and probably the most in summer months, is asphalt not a little hot for that type of a space?
I mean, it will be. It's the same when we set up an event in a parking lot, right? It'll be very much like that. But we're hoping with the planters and the benches, it'll certainly soften it. But right now, it's hard surface, it's concrete, and there are a lot of trip hazards on that. So from our perspective, we feel that the town should be. We need to fix it so that we don't have those liability issues.
It's just more for liability issues.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I guess probably through to the CAO, through you to the CAO, in the absence of Clerk Thomas, because the last meeting we had, she's the lead resource on this, I believe, and I'd just like to hear, because at that point in time, the indication was she didn't feel any certainty to July 1st. So can you give us a town staff perspective that in the absence of Clerk Thomas, is that okay?
So I think we should get the motion on the floor. I think I'd feel better before. Perhaps if you could hold that answer, and if there's any other questions of the deputants here, and then we'll come back to your question.
That's fine.
Would anyone else like questions of the? No. Okay, so thank you for your presentation. That was very helpful. I'll read in the motion again, and then we'll look for a mover and a seconder.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Whereas in accordance with the BIA/Town Memorandum of Understanding, initiatives to construct or enhance infrastructure in the downtown shall require the town's approval and be at the expense of the BIA unless otherwise approved by council. Therefore, be it resolved that council support the interim activation plan proposed by the BIA in cooperation with town staff for 84 Hurontario Street until the downtown master plan is complete and council confirms the future of the subject property. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Houston, Councillor Baines, thank you. And we'll look for the CAO to answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you through the chair to the Deputy Mayor Fryer. I haven't heard any concerns from the staff. They were waiting for council's decision today to know that it was full steam ahead. But I do believe it is achievable for the 1st of July.
Follow up, go ahead.
Just to follow up, and it is because we will be inviting people to be on that property, and it is the town's property, so the liability be there. So as long as we're feeling confident that those can be covered, then I just wanted to know that.
I should have mentioned as well, we do need a quote for the asphalt. So once we have the quote, we'll know whether we will be running forward with the project or not under the budget that the BIA has provided. So we'll know well before July 1st if in fact it is achievable, pending the direction today.
Councillor Baines?
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. Through you, perhaps to Sue or someone. As you all know, the Optimist Club of Collingwood is running its annual pancake breakfast at 8 o'clock and its family bike parade at 10 down here, Ontario. It needs someplace to finish. And I would suggest to you that perhaps the first meeting that you could have or arrangement would be to allow the kids to get off your Ontario right at that spot. It's just a suggestion.
That's an idea. I thought you were going to ask me to move the pancake breakfast
No.
because it's the sunny side of the street at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
I know that.
Thank you.
Just in case if you're wondering if there'd be any use for it.
I've got a Lego center coming. I have a place to put it.
Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you. Mayor Hamlin, I'm thinking about a way that I can sever out the asphalt portion, because if I were envisioning another place to animate in the downtown core for me to go and be, it wouldn't be to be asphalted and to sit in, it's been equated to a parking lot, and, we have some fantastic events without the liability over at the museum, at the station, on the grass and things. And I don't know, I just, I'm all for it, and I'm all for working with the BIA, but I'm just not a fan of that asphalt. So if we can sever that part out, I'd be good.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Or do I need a seconder?
You can do it on request.
Okay, I'll second. Oh, yeah, just to sever, right. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Hamlin. I guess I'm looking for clarification, possibly through the CAO. I hear that there's a contractor ready to go to do asphalt, but then I hear that we need to go out and get quotes. So what's the process? And I mean, we're a 2-week window to get that done. I have a hard time seeing that can be accomplished. How does that process play out with the town?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I do believe that Manager Cole and the acting supervisor Wisniak are on the line that may have a quick response to the steps that we need to go through.
Manager Cole, are you there? There he is. Did you need the question repeated?
No, I believe that's okay, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Through Your Worship to Council, there are a few different options that were considered by the BIA in the town for this project. Noting for sure the talk already around the liability of the existing surface. We have reached out for some quotes, which we are currently waiting for today to come back to us, and should be able to move forward in some direction once they are received.
I just want to note that I'm along with Councillor Jeffries in regards to, I like to see something with the property, but the asphalt, I couldn't support it this time. That's all. Thanks.
Councillor Baines.
Thank you, Chair. I agree in the long term in regard to the use of asphalt versus grass, but in the short term, which I'm assuming the time frame here is until a master plan is completed and finished and would address the vision, I would think, for this property. I can support this motion, understanding it's not perfect, but it will buy us, I would think, 3 years perhaps at the earliest before we could take out the asphalt to put in grass. But I know it's not a perfect arrangement, but I think under the circumstances, it's better than not having any property there right now. So for that reason, I will support this motion.
Manager Cole, can you tell council whether grass was considered, and if it was, why we're not pursuing it at this time?
Thank you, Your Worship. If I could defer in part to Susan with the BIA, but I just want to perhaps remind council or note for council that the existing surface is a concrete surface, which would require a significant amount of work and funding to have it removed and leveled. Going forward with a surface such as capping it with asphalt is a financially reasonable method to move forward with in the short term. Looking 2 to 4 years out, it may also help support some of the other functions which take place in municipal parking lots to have their own proper space.
Thank you. Did you want to add something? CEO is going to add something. Thank you.
Sorry, I think Manager Cole did add that the design itself, the proposal is very much the BIA's, though staff have attempted to support them, and I just wanted to reorient the question to the BIA if it was necessary around the what was considered.
Go ahead, Sue.
Certainly looked at a lot of different options. I mean, just trying to, there's some major trip hazards. There's quite a sunken area at the bottom. We did get some pricing on removing the entire concrete pad as well as the front. The front one is doable. In taking out the entire concrete pad would probably take most of the budget that we've already allotted for it. And then we would have to figure out what else to do with it. And we have no idea what the ground is like under it, because that concrete pad, of course, has been there since it was the Regent Theatre, if anyone remembers that. But this was a discussion that we had mid last week to look at options because, quite frankly, people are walking on it, using it, and it's a liability for the town's perspective. So short of fencing it and not letting anyone use it, I mean, that's one of the options that I think the town would have to consider.
Okay, thanks for saying that, Councillor Perry.
Yeah, thank you, Sue, for the presentation. I think the fact that you want to do something with this, with the support of the BIA is fantastic. I will mention, I'm in line with Councillor Baines. As a temporary measure, I think it's fantastic. Moving forward, we've all been to the farmer's market. That's on pavement as well. And I walked around there Saturday, and it was not hot. I mean, it was a warm day, but it wasn't uncomfortable. So I think for a temporary measure right now, I think it's a great way to go. That's just my opinion on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Houston.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I do want to echo Councillor Baines' opinion as well. While I agree that asphalt is not the ideal solution until we have a longer term plan, I think it does solve two of our challenges, which is the liability that already exists on that piece of land and also the ability for the BIA to activate it until we do have a future long-term plan for it. Like I said, it's not ideal and would love to see grass long-term, but I don't know that there's any other solution at this point to get it activated as a short-term.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffrey, you going to weigh in one last time?
I'm just thinking about an amendment, Mayor Hamlin, as opposed to severing, adding that, recognizing that the use of asphalt is a temporary measure only and will be reconsidered in the master plan going forward.
Would there be a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Ring, thank you. Okay, I'll just say thank you so much for taking the initiative to do something with this piece of land. The town bought it, I guess, over a year ago, and it might sit there for a while still. So it's very much appreciated. I'll say for you to have taken this under your wing, so to speak, and given so much thought to it. And I think if we can get it opened for Canada Day, that is a win for everybody. I do agree that, asphalt probably isn't the best long-term solution.
And we know that.
Yeah, I know. And you know that. And there's a lot of costs associated with pulling up concrete and also, a big question mark, what's underneath that we'd have to deal with. So I think to get this going, I think this is fantastic and I'll support it. So we have an amendment on the floor. All those in favor of the amendment? That's unanimous. And now we'll vote on the main motion. All those in favor? And that's also unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I invite you all to come and play with Lego there July 1st.
Okay, Canada Day, you're on. Oh. Yes, Councillor Baines.
Chair Hamlin, I don't usually get sick, very oddly, but I have developed chills. I don't have a fever, but I don't think it's appropriate for me to continue under the circumstance. So I think I will depart and hopefully get better.
Go home and have some tea.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for letting us know.
I'll let you know if...
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do the reoccurring updates. The first one's on water capacity and land use planning, and this is our CAO Skinner.
Get out the door before Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. We have a shortened deck today. I just wanted to highlight a few of the items. I think that all of council and hopefully the community is well aware of the background at this point. Next slide, please. So our zoning bylaw amendment is the last thing that's holding up being able to lift the interim control bylaw and move fully to our new paradigm. There were originally 3 appeals. 2 have been fully resolved, one with Crest Point Real Estate and one with 255-4281 Ontario Limited for 121 Hume Street. And the final appeal is resolved pending a site plan approval and implementation of a settlement targeting this month. And that is on behalf of John Welton. And we do have a site plan coming forward for decision at committee, I believe, today. Next slide, please. We do have interim control bylaw exemptions and then servicing capacity allocations both at play. And it can be confusing when you think through these two, but really the interim control bylaw is what would allow development to go forward at all if something is controlled by the interim control bylaw. And now council has been allocating the actual servicing capacity allocation through our new policy, which we found fondly call SCAP. So for major developments, the applications are being processed per normal and they continue to advance. And our second batch of large development applications is targeting fall 2023. So that's yet to come. The first one has happened this year. With respect to the short-term exemption program for minor development proposals, we did have a second intake close on May 12th, and there were 7 requests received, which council, I'm sure council is aware, has approved all 7 requests. We're not anticipating a second short-term intake this year because we do anticipate the interim control bylaw will be removed. However, if it is not removed, then we'll have to revisit that with council. Hopefully we won't need one. Next slide, please. So we have this pie chart, and typically this is looking at if from here you can see the whole pie. The blue side that's toward the right, the large pie piece toward the right, are the items that have received exemptions, but they have not come forward for building permits. So we've put up there in the big red text, if you do have an exemption and you wish to move forward, don't delay. Please come through the planning and building permit processes. Over time, these amounts of water, once the ICBL is lifted and the clock is ticking, will roll back into the overall water that's available for other developments. So if you have one and you want to move forward, it's good if you do. And just one other item, a note at the bottom of this slide on the right in this very small text for 2023, we've had 203 building permits issued year to date. And I wish to dispel one of our myths that continues, which is that we're not building. In Collingwood, very much people are building. They've just gone building through a new lens that requires some new decisions by council for development that's valued under our servicing capacity allocation policy. Next slide, please. Water capacity updates. So the Collingwood and New Tecumseth under our agreement, when it was signed later in 22, we had a year to come forward with the terms of reference for a joint water committee. So the Joint Water Committee manages the operational items day to day. So the CAO at New Tecumseth and myself with the treasurer and the director of the water director are notionally on this committee. And we're looking at bringing the terms of reference forward for the 2 councils' approvals in the next month or 2. Major issues or changes to policy or any changes to the contract would continue to rest with the councils themselves. We've had continuing conversations with the staff at the town of Blue Mountains about their water supply and their long-term needs. They have a number of environmental assessment type work underway for water and wastewater, and are looking at ideally knowing some of the costs prior to committing, and or looking at interim solutions. And by interim, we mean 10, 15-year solutions as they further develop all of their long-term plans for the Blue Mountains. With respect to the water treatment plant expansion, we have our existing plant UV equipment on site and installed. Working around other things, we're targeting to commission that equipment in July. The process does take 4 to 6 weeks, and that needs to be done before winter. It's winter when the water gets cold that UV becomes really useful and needed. We had great constructability reviews with our pre-qualified general contractors. We have 3 excellent contractors who are used to doing large projects like ours. We do have some emerging concerns, as I've reported a couple of times previously, with respect to the early 2026 delivery. Our general contractors walked through the many steps that they have to go through to keep the water flowing while they do such a major expansion. And very, very good news today. The tender has been posted for the 3 pre-selected general contractors. So they now have that in hand and can proceed with preparing their bids. They'll be due in August. Next slide, please. This is the same chart that has been shown many times before, although we do have a couple of updates. The top left, second down, the advanced UV disinfection has a new date, now targeting July. It's mostly done. And in the top right, second one down, the final design and facility construction tender, as I just mentioned, is underway. And other items have stayed the same as you've seen previously. Next slide. And that's it for today's updates. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor, could I just ask CEO Skinner to elaborate a little bit about the mention of the 3 pre-selected general contractors?
Absolutely. Through the chair. So in looking at the best way to approach this very complex project, in consultation with our clerk's area, who's in charge of our finance, and also our fairness monitor, and our consultant, ACOM, who's working with our water and wastewater environmental services folks, we looked at a really innovative approach to the tender. So instead of designing it all in-house with our consultant, we, at key milestones, we pre-qualified a set of contractors. There was 3 ultimately pre-qualified, which was the target numbers, who had done similar work in Ontario previously. And they sat with our team and our consulting team at key milestones to provide input. Everything, I witnessed a few of these discussions, and they looked at everything from how do they manage garbage in an environmentally friendly way, how do they reduce energy use, what are all the cycles that we need to go through, do the layouts make sense, the footprint layouts within the drawings. They're fierce competitors. I think all 3 of them want to win the project. And it is quite a bit of commitment to work on a project like this and to price it. So we did also pay an honorarium to those 3 contractors for walking through the process with us over the last number of months, I want to guess 8 or so. So they are now the ones who are working independently and have those tenders in hand today.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? Okay. The next item is an update also from CEO Skinner on the Poplar Health and Wellness Village, which we affectionately call our MZO project.
Thank you, Mayor. Since late last year, actually even since the last few months of the previous council, and with this council late last year till today, we've been working with the developers for the Poplar Health and Wellness Village, their DEPUTATION management and Live, Work, Learn, Play, to finalize a companion agreement that supports the ministerial zoning order. So the ministerial zoning order will allow the mixed use that's proposed on that site to go forward. And the minister made a decision to allow those mixed uses and potentially much benefit for the town of Collingwood and the developers as well in this village. We had a group meeting about 6 weeks ago. After that group meeting, there were 2 sets of things that needed to be delivered. One were a number of items that the developer was asked to finalize and propose. 2 development parties were asked to finalize and propose to us. And the town also updated a bit of the language. That language has now all been put together by our respective legal teams and has just recently been forwarded to town staff for review. So we are hopeful that we're very close to reaching an agreement. We're not yet certain if we'll need to have another live negotiation session or we'll be able to finalize those details through the written approach. And there were some questions as well about the outstanding payments for the work that has been done on the town side with respect to third parties we've pulled in for expert advice. So that'll be a part of the negotiations.
Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to item 8 of the agenda. And I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the following, that the minutes of the following boards be hereby received and the recommendations contained therein be approved. 8.1, Collingwood Public Library Board Minutes, May 25, 2023. That's Councillor Perry and Councillor Potts. Any comments? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. The Committee of the Whole report is now before us. This is from the meeting of June 5. And these are the matters I'll also be looking for a mover and a seconder. So, that Council received the Committee of the Whole report from its meeting held June 5, 2023, and hereby approve the recommendations contained within the report as presented. Items where action was provided. Deputation, the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay funding request. FS 2023-01, advance budget approval for the replacement of the aerial apparatus. CCS 2023-03, memorandum of understanding, grain terminals revitalization project. C 2023-16, 2022 annual lobbyist registry report. P 2023-19, dormant file closure, staff delegated authority. CAO 2023-07, strategic planning and downtown plan next steps. Committee and board minutes, the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting, April 2023, Museum Advisory Committee meeting, May 25, 2023, and the Museum Advisory Committee meeting, April 20, 2023. Consent agenda, letter to council, municipal accommodation tax from the Southern Georgian Bay Tourism, and lastly, the Mayor's CAO's forum motion, re-transit. Could I have a mover and a seconder? That would be Councillor Jeffrey and Councillor Ring. And I know at this point I wanted to sever out one matter and have it deferred, and so I have to turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin, and I will ask you to put your request on the table.
Okay, this is the item P 2023-19, dormant file closure, staff delegated authority. And this is the particular matter that Ms. Robertson was speaking to us earlier, seeking either us change the dates for allowing staff to close files or engaging in discussion with the development community. And so I'm seeking a deferral to allow time to have discussion with the development community with a view to bringing this back. And my thought would be to have, this consultation sooner than later. Yeah.
And I'll just actually procedurally turn to the Deputy Clerk and ask, the motion is in total, the deferrals asked for. Is it okay? Do we need an amendment to the motion, or can we just have the deferral happen, the vote happen, and if it's successful, then proceed with the rest of the...
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I would just sever out the staff report for P 2023-19 and consider the Committee of the Whole report and then deal with that matter separately.
Okay, so that's what I'll do. I'll ask that be severed out, and we will vote on the amendment with that severed. Is everybody comfortable with that? For the other items? Okay, so I'll call that matter to vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And then there is a deferral vote on the table, so there's no discussion. So in the matter of deferral, sorry, Deputy Clerk?
Thank you. I don't know that we have a seconder for the deferral
sorry.
motion,
Yes, I
and
should have.
there's no debate allowed on a deferral.
For the deferral vote, Councillor Perry. And go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, Acting Chair. I just wasn't sure, and if I can ask this question, I would ask to the clerk as well. I think that there may have been an ask for staff to take action, and I'm wondering, is this a straight deferral, or is this a request for staff to do something and then bring the item back?
I'll ask for clarification from the mayor, but my understanding was we were just deferring the report.
This is a good question because clearly my request is to defer this in order to give us time to have discussions with the development community. And I had anticipated that I would be involved in those discussions as well as staff. So would another motion be required or a direction from staff for that?
I would recommend the matter be referred back to staff for further
Okay.
consultation then.
All right. So instead of deferring, we would ask for a referral so I'll amend my motion to refer this item back to staff.
So it's a referral back. I'll turn to Councillor Perry, make sure you're comfortable with seconding still. And I do believe then we can have some discussion if anybody would like to speak. Councillor Jeffrey.
So thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I guess in my mind, in terms of, our staff have very clearly vetted a process that's used in other communities. So I'm assuming that these discussions are going to be able to alleviate or really explain our position in terms of the speed at which the province is requiring us to move now, and the importance of our partners staying engaged and being able to, this hasn't been a rushed thing for us. And to state otherwise would insinuate that we rush everything that's on our agendas. So I'm hoping that the conversation is going to be a two-way one where we can explain our position, and it may not change staff's position at all. And I don't think that's should be seen as a guarantee that we're going to bring them in to talk to staff and staff are going to change it. I don't think that's reasonable. So, especially through a process that's already been vetted. So I'm hoping that that will be a two-way conversation where they can explain to us, but understanding that our staff have already vetted a process that is used in other communities successfully. So
I'll just ask if anyone else has any comments to make. And I'll go back to Mayor Hamlin.
Thank you. Yeah, in response to Councillor Jeffrey's concerns, I very much see this as a two-way discussion. I never anticipate our development community is going to be telling us, as the people voted to lead our community, what we have to do. So I think feel assured in that respect. We'll see where the discussion goes, and of course there'll be a report back from staff.
Nobody else? Okay, so my comment would be that in listening to the earlier presentation, there was some suggestion in regards to Bill 109 and some other legal jurisdiction concerns. So I look at this just not an opportunity for some further discussion with the development group, but also internally by staff and if necessary, with council in any kind of setting that's necessary to consider anything from a legal standpoint. So that all being said, I will call the matter to vote then as far as referring this item to staff. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.
Okay,
Back
thanks.
to you, Mayor Hamlin.
Thanks very much. The next item is a bylaw, which is as follows. Yes, it is. So we will not be dealing with 9.1.2 because it relates to the matter that we are deferring. Thank you. So the next item then is a staff report. It's 10.1, P 2023-27, 21, for 17 Portland Street, Site Plan Control Agreement. Would there be a staff presentation on this? Over to you, Director Valentine.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. As Senior Planner Brian makes his way to the podium, I have a few brief remarks with respect to this particular report. So Council will be familiar with this proposal due to a related legal proceeding, which has been deliberated in camera. So as a reminder, the direction provided was to advance this file directly to Council as soon as all the major technical matters were addressed, and that is what is happening today. We would note as well that there's an affordable housing component to this development. However, through the legal proceedings, the form of that component has not been fully determined. So staff will be working with the proponent to prepare agreed upon key messages regarding the affordable housing piece of this application once the legal matter is resolved. And lastly, servicing capacity allocation is also part of the legal proceedings, but we are able to share publicly that the project did score over the 50% threshold required for staff to recommend that capacity be allocated. And the commitment for 2023 of 50 SDUs has been accounted for in the tracking tables that are presented to Council semi-annually. So notwithstanding Council's general understanding and familiarity with this proposal, we do have Senior Planner Brian here, who's prepared a presentation for the benefit of those watching on the webcast and also to take Council through the planning outcomes associated with this project. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Valentine. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of Council, and members of the public. This presentation will provide an overview of the proposed residential site plan located at 17 Portland Street and known as the Townhomes of Pretty River. Next slide, please. Subject property is a 3.98 hectare vacant development block within the Pretty River Estates subdivision and is located on the north side of Poplar Side Road to the east of Portland Street. Surrounding land uses include single detached residential dwellings to the north and west, and infrastructure and open space to the east. Bob Davy Reservoir, the Pretty River Estate Storm Pond, the Poplar Dog Park, and of course the Pretty River itself. Next slide, please. Proposed development was the subject of a pre-consultation application in the early fall of 2021. With an application for site plan control being submitted in the spring of 2022, and this is for a 90 townhouse and semi-detached dwelling unit development. Over the next year, the proposed development was extensively reviewed by town departments, external agencies, and third-party peer reviewers. Next slide, please. Town of Collingwood official plan designates the subject lands as low-medium density residential exception 2. Permitted uses include the proposed semi-detached and townhouse dwellings at a maximum density of 23 units per hectare. Town zoning bylaw zones the lands as residential third density exception 60, which permits the proposed dwelling units and the freehold lots common element condominium tenure proposed. Zoning bylaw has a number of site-specific exceptions to address land use compatibility issues, including enhanced setbacks to the rear yards of the existing residences along Portland Street, so within the existing built-up portion of the subdivision, and also enhanced setbacks for yards adjacent to Poplar Side Road, which reflects that Poplar Side Road is under the jurisdiction of Simcoe County and requires a 10-meter setback for buildings and structures. The lands are also subject to a holding provision, Holding 19, which requires confirmation of adequate and functional municipal water services prior to being lifted. Next slide, please. Site plan control application specifically proposes 84 townhouses and 6 semi-detached dwelling units in combination with a common element condominium, and that would consist of private roads, visitor parking, and amenity areas. And as noted by the address, the access, primary access, singular access is located off of Portland Street. Site plan control agreement for the proposal applies to the entire development block and contains a number of special terms and conditions, addressing such matters as servicing allocation, conveyance of open space lands, achievement of Energy Star standards for the dwelling units, required easements for servicing, and noise, waste collection, yard usability, and condominium warning clauses. Site plan agreement also contains clauses pertaining to financial and security considerations specific to the proposed block, including a required $5,000 legal deposit, approximately $120,000 in engineering fees, and approximately $3.9 million in securities. All of our site plan agreements are accompanied by an appropriate insurance policy. Slide, please. Landscaping for the proposal is provided throughout the site with a northwestern amenity area adjacent to the Hamilton Drain Trail, which is to be conveyed to the town. And this is above and beyond any parkland conveyance requirements, as parkland was dealt with through the original subdivision in which this block is located, and that was cash in lieu provisions. A playground area is also proposed for the development's residents, and tree plantings throughout the development are also proposed, which will achieve a 32% canopy. And if council recalls, the urban design manual requires that they achieve a minimum of 30% canopy coverage at the tree's maturity. Next slides, please. Slides 7 through 9 show 3 typical blocks of townhouses within the development. They show a variety of styles, colors, and ornamentation, as well as how the units are articulated and differentiated to increase visual interest and reduce the perception of density. Next slide, please. This slide, okay, sorry. These are the other 2 blocks of townhouses that I had for illustrative purposes. Slide, please. And next slide, please. This slide identifies the various studies and reports that were submitted in support of the proposed development, and they have been extensively reviewed by town departments, external commenting agencies, as well as third-party peer reviewers where appropriate. The proposed development is consistent and in conformity with all of the applicable provincial and municipal planning policy and regulatory instruments as outlined in the staff report. The proposal contributes to the achievement of complete communities and compact urban form, helping to complete an existing subdivision, which is in close proximity to an existing elementary school, open space areas, a number of other community services, and potential amenities in the broader area. And there specifically, I'm looking to some of the commercially designated lands adjacent to Huron-Ontario Street. The proposal further expands the provision of a diverse range and mix of housing options in this part of the town and includes an affordable housing component. Subject applications were circulated to town departments, applicable third-party peer reviewers, and external commenting agencies review and comment, and the majority of matters have been sufficiently addressed. It is noted that a number of minor outstanding site servicing issues are in the process of being resolved, and hence the conditional site plan approval recommendation. The development proposal also provides additional open space to the community and supports and is integrated into the town's active transportation system. And if you can see in the report or referring back to the landscape plan or even the site plan, the Hamilton Drain Trail runs along the top of the development, and there is the connecting trail over to the train trail, as well as the trail that runs adjacent to the Poplar Dog Park. And as noted, the development proposal also provides additional open space to the community. And in summary, the principle of development has already been established for the property through official plan and zoning bylaw amendments, which were approved previously by the Ontario Land Tribunal in June of 2021. Subject lands are a development block within a registered plan of subdivision, the Pretty River Estates, and have been identified for potential development for some time. Approximately 76 SDUs, single dwelling unit equivalents of water, and 130 SDUs of wastewater have been granted for the development, with phased allocation over the next 2 years, so 2023 and 2024. An exemption to the provisions of the town's interim control bylaw for the subject property are, however, needed, or an exemption is needed to operationalize this allocation. Final resolution of outstanding minor technical matters will be addressed through the conditional site plan approval and finalization of the site plan drawings and site plan agreement. Future process will include the removal of the holding provision, and the applicant's in the process of submitting that holding provision removal request. And there will also be a need for submission and review of applications for condominium exemption and part lot control to create the intended tenure. And at this point, this concludes my presentation. I'm of course available to answer any questions that council may have. And I would note that the applicant, John Welton of John Welton Custom Home Building, and his planning consultant, Christine Loft of Loft Planning, they are also available virtually and in the audience tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. So what I'll do at this point, I'll read in the motion before us, or the resolution, that staff report P 2023-21, approval and authorization bylaw to execute a site plan control agreement for 17 Portland Street, townhomes of Pretty River, dated April 24, 2023, be received, and that site plan application number D11522 be approved, subject to the following conditions. A, that any final comments from Engineering and Environmental Services and the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority, if required, be addressed, and any associated plan revisions be made to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works and Engineering. And B, execution of a site plan control agreement with the town to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning, Building, and Economic Development and town solicitor. And that an authorization bylaw to execute the above-noted site plan control agreement for a residential development at 17 Portland Street be enacted and passed, and that 17 Portland Street be exempt from the provisions of the interim control bylaw and added to Schedule A of bylaw number 2021-024 for a total allocation of 75 SDUs of municipal water and 130 SDUs of municipal wastewater allocated over a 2-year period, and that bylaw number 2023-059 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan control agreement for the development referred to as 17 Portland Street be enacted and passed this 19th day of June 2023. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Potts and Deputy Mayor Fryer, thank you. Would there be any questions? Comments? Oh, yes, from our Deputy Clerk.
Sorry, if I could, I was away when the agenda was issued and I was just looking at the motion, and I'm just wondering if we could do an amendment to include a bylaw 2023-061, to amend the interim control bylaw to add this property to Schedule A.
Okay. I have, would the original mover and seconder agree to that amendment? Yes, that's okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, with that amendment, any questions or comments? Okay, this project has been long in coming to conclusion, and I'm happy to see it here before us today. So with that, I'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. The next matter is a motion, and I'm going to turn the chair over to the Deputy Mayor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. As 11.1 is a motion in regards to the Institute of South Georgian Bay request for funding. Notice was provided by Mayor Hamlin at the last meeting, and I'll actually have the mayor read in her motion and ask for a seconder.
Thank you. The motion is as follows. The council approve the funding request of $10,000 to the Institute of Southern Georgian Bay to become a lead program partner and encourage support from member municipalities.
And a seconder, Councillor Potts. And I'll ask Mayor Hamlin if she would like to speak first or
I'll go last, yeah.
last. Okay. Would anybody like to make comment on it? Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure we got the answer last time or if the treasurer's online, but where would this money come from, first of all?
So if
We were scraping for pennies in our budget when we did it. so-
Treasurer Quinlan, you can go ahead if you've heard the question.
I have. Thank you, Chair Fryer. So through you to Councillor Jeffrey, there is this would come out of the council grants budget items, and there is about $60,000 remaining, pardon me, in that budget at this time. It is the sort of a general amount that's set aside for grants that are required throughout the year that come up, as well as some annual things that we do each year. But at this point, there's $60,000 left in that budget amount.
Thank you. I'll ask for follow-up.
Thank you. So that's great news, because I know we're all super supportive of the group and the work they do. I'm wondering through to staff, I think this has become an annual ask. I think previously during the years it's been around $5,000, and this is double. And I'm just wondering if we could encourage the participants to come in line with our budget process so that we can fairly assess everybody all at the same time. So we have the money now, that's great, I'll support it, but I would really like to encourage them to get onto our budget timeline so that it can be in the bigger picture.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? And Councillor Perry? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Hamlin. This is a fantastic group, and I fully support what they're doing. This question is for Treasurer Quinlan. I know we have just discretionary council budget. I'm just wondering what the total is that. I don't recall at the beginning of the year when we did the budget what the total amount was that we had available to us.
Okay,
the reason I'm asking is just want to know where we are in relation to that total amount for the year.
Treasurer Quinlan, can you respond to that, please?
Yes, if I may, Chair Fryer, through you to Councillor Perry. The total amount for the budget was $135,000, which includes a portion that's for in-kind support as well, around $55,000. That's inclusive of that. So to date, we've spent about $65,000, nearing $70,000. So that's where I get back to the $60,000 remaining.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mayor Hamlin.
Yes, thank you. Well, I don't need to say much about the Institute, probably. Everyone's familiar with it. They're doing great work for our region of South Georgian Bay. I feel we're lucky that they're involved and just very much supportive of all their initiatives. That's to all of our benefit.
Okay, and that covers everything. I'll call the matter then to vote. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. And before I turn the chair over to Mayor Hamlin, I'll mention that Councillor Perry did refer to me as Deputy Mayor Hamlin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That gets us back for when I forgot to mention you in the bowling. And I'll just briefly say one of the matters from the minutes was I had made mention that I was considering whether or not I needed to bring a motion forward in consideration of putting my name forward for the MPAC board. I'm not planning on doing it right now, so I don't have a motion coming forward, so I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. So under item 12, there's no bylaws in addition to what we've had tonight. Are there any notices of motion anyone wishes to bring forward? No. The county report, over to you, Deputy Mayor Fryer.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. I wanted, this is the other matter from the minutes that I wanted to report back to council on. Two specific inquiries were made at last meeting. Councillor Doherty had inquired about whether Simcoe County was still exploring a biomass energy from waste incineration proposal. The previous council did discuss and advise staff that they should continue to explore solutions, but more in conjunction with the province. This was the decision due to the economies of scale requirements, which means that there's very little possibility that Simcoe County could do a standalone project. The other inquiry surrounded the pending changes on January 1st, 2024 to the Blue Box program. What's happening then is that it is when the changes come through to the recycling programs in Ontario, the move to being a producer responsibility model. The provincial initiative is to better manage waste generated from products and packaging to promote innovation, reduce waste, and lower costs for taxpayers. Hazardous waste and electronic disposal are also part of that change at the first of the year. So at this stage, Simcoe County is still in negotiations with the producer associations to work out details about the transition. Simcoe is trying to work together to ensure partnerships are in place to make it a seamless transition for the residents. I'll be reporting back as those negotiations proceed and things are firmed up. I think a separate one that I'll just mention, but still an important part, is the ongoing work by Simcoe County to consider what options are available for the 10,000 multi-residential residents that Simcoe isn't mandated to do waste collection of any kind for. A staff report's planned to come to council in the next few months, county council, that examines alternative approaches, possible pilot project undertakings or that type of thing, with the ultimate goal to help lower that 60% level of what is considered probably something that could be recycled that's reaching the landfill. So that's the goal that Simcoe is pursuing, and one of the considerations is those areas that they're not mandated to collect, and they'll be working with the producers in regards to that as well. So those were the two updates from last meeting when I spoke about the county ushers, and I'd be open for any questions if anybody had anything. And as always, the portal's available if you wanted to look at the agendas and the reports there.
Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the consent items. Of course, if anyone's interested, they can look at all the general correspondence we've received on the agenda and meeting portal on our website. The items before us tonight as follows: that council hear and receive the general consent agenda. Further, that the information and opinions provided in the general consent agenda items are those of the author and are not verified or approved as being correct. There's three things listed. Letter refluoride from Dr. Wade Mitchell. Secondly, a proclamation, St. John Ambulance Week, which is this week now, June 19th, 23 to June 25, 2023. And of course, there was a flag raising this morning that most of us attended at 11 a.m. And lastly, there will be a flag raising for the Calling Run Music Festival on July 4th at 4 p.m. Did anyone wish to pull anything? The only item I wish to address is the letter refluoride from Dr. Wade Mitchell. He raises whether our community should be adding fluoride to the water in support of dental health. And really, I know there's views on both sides of this question, and I'm raising this now just to make sure that the letter that's come forward, our staff is aware of it and are thinking about this issue as relates to our water system. Okay, the next item is 16. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor Hamlin. I wanted to ask a question on that, and maybe I should have known, but did we not put fluoride in our drinking water?
I'll ask the CAO to respond to that.
Thank you, Chair. We don't have the experts here with us today, but in anticipation of having this item, we did ask them to provide me with some information. And currently, Collingwood does not add fluoride to its drinking water. There is a small amount of fluoride that's present naturally in the water when it's pulled into the plant, which I understand is in the range of 20% of the minimum amount that would be recommended for teeth health. However, there are quite strong views on both sides of the opinions around whether to add or not to add fluoride to drinking water. And in Collingwood, we're a bit of a special case as well in that we're supplying several other communities. In other areas, there have been things as intensive even as referendum type discussions around fluoride. So our production of water for others does make it a bit more of a complex question here.
Thank you. Just, I'm sorry, I thought it's been a number of years, and I thought we almost had a referendum one time during an election on it, and I thought we were putting fluoride in the water, but I obviously have been wrong.
Yes, Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor Hamlin. You do need a mover and seconder for this and a vote to receive it.
Thank you. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Potts and Councillor Perry. Any further comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Is there any old or deferred business? Seeing none, is there any other business? Well, I thought of one thing. I should have mentioned when I was doing the community announcement concerning the visit from Japan, our visitors coming with the Mayor of Gatineau. The volunteer committee is looking for homes for billeting the visitors. And I don't have a contact information at this point as to where people can apply if they'd like to make that available in their home. But if they wanted to email me, I could pass on the relevant information. Thank you. So lastly then, we have a confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw number 2023-06 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of council held June 5, 2023, and the special meeting of council held June 12, 2023, be enacted and passed this 19th day of June, 2023. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Perry, seconded by Councillor Houston. All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Looks like we need a motion to adjourn. Councillor Jeffrey, thank you. All those in favor? And yes, we're unanimous. Thanks so much. And I guess we'll be back at 5. Or, Deputy Clerk, what time shall we? All right, we're just having a little negotiation here. So the Committee of Whole of Council will commence at 4:45. Thank you.
What about 10 to 5?
No, we're done.
You don't remember.